Well, it is high noon in Central Standard Time, everyone. Welcome. This is Alan Goldberg, and this is the business plan reinvented by the Funding RoadMap, sponsored by the ASBDC and Funding RoadMap. And I have with us today the CEO of Funding RoadMap, Ruth Hedges. And Ruth is going to show us the Funding RoadMap website. I hope everybody has got a good, clear view of what she's going to be demonstrating. I am recording this in case there are people you know that intended to join us today and for some reason got sidetracked. So Ruth, I hope you can hear me clearly. I'm going to turn the microphone over to you, even though we're in different locations, and let's get started. Welcome, Ruth Hedges.
Thank you, Alan, and welcome all of you. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have some very interesting information and new technology that we want to share with you. We actually built the Funding Roadmap to replace the templates that are promoted by the SBA, by the SBDCs. I'm sure you're all familiar with these, but I'm going to go over it just briefly so that we're all on the same page about what it is that we're trying to show you. These are typical samples of templates that almost every SBDC office has some version of this, and it outlines the different categories that one has to create to build a business plan. And then there are, of course, these financial statements. Part of the problem, of course, with these is that there's huge inefficiencies and flaws. Some of the things that have come to our attention with these types of templates, of course, are improper forms and content are not GAAP compliant, which is generally accepted accounting principles. They offer inadequate reporting periods, which, as you all know, should reflect projected periods going at least 3 years back. They lack mathematical integration between the three statements. They offer no table of underlying assumptions, and basically they hinder useful analysis. So what we did is we built an online version of all of that information, which you can log in and you can review it from the internet. And we took all the same questions that you would find in a business plan template, and we built them in a multiple choice reporting system. We took all the information about your legal forms of charter, your products and services, market analysis, industry analysis, operations of the company, company planning. These are the exact same things that you'd find in any of these templates, but we built it in a much more technologically advanced way.
Ruth, may I interrupt you for a moment? Because in listening, in listening to your explanation, I wanted to make sure I understood the difference of the two approaches that you've just outlined. One approach is the standard approach that we've used for years in small business, and that is we get our forms together, and of course it's the paperwork that's so hard to get your arms around. You've taken this and you've put it on a website which makes it, one, interactive, and two, I guess it's accessible from any place as long as I have a web browser and I can log on. But you've built in a lot of the assumptions that were never apparent in the paperwork that I used to use when I would go for small business funding. So in looking at what you're comparing here on the screen, I've got one extreme where it's the, I hate to use the old school way, and I've got the new school way, which really looks to me to be, am I wrong here, a lot easier to get my arms around.
Yeah, absolutely, because we built the white are input fields. All the calculations are built into the report. Those are the gray fields. So, and these are GAAP compliant financial statements, and in fact they're actually compliant with the new international GAAP, which went into effect in January of 2011, the beginning of this year. And this is really important because we did an extensive examination of business plan templates. And at the conclusion of our examination, we found that all of the templates were ineffective tools. They didn't offer any meaningful support that's really sufficient enough to develop and produce acceptable principal financial statements as the end product. We believe that suitability is predicted upon being reasonably compliant, believable, accurate, presentation worthy, and ultimately adequate enough to satisfy all of the normal criteria of document submissions that banks expect and institutional lenders are charged with in their underwriting of loans. And
Ruth, that it really is a huge thing, because many times everybody is now listening thinking, Ruth and Alan are having a conversation. Yes, we are, and I'm glad you're there listening, because being a small business guy, I'm thinking to myself, one, you're keeping up with the changes in the GAAP nomenclature for me. That's number one, which I could never do. And then number two, I guess so many institutions are expecting certain things. I never really knew what they were expecting. And looking at your forms now, I can see that this is really a set of great tools integrated together.
Exactly. And you do them in a step-by-step format, so that because all of these financial statements are all the calculations are interlocked between them, and so they flow together. And that way they're compliant, which of course is not happening in this format. I mean, this is the weaknesses in this type of format of business planning is sort of indescribable when you think about it. I mean, here's how they explain how you're supposed to put together income statement, balance sheet, tax return. I mean, it goes on and on and on, but there's no actual way to build these statements in these types of outlines and templates. And even on the SBA's website, and they're the ones that set the standard, essentially.
Yes. Well, I can see why a small business person who doesn't have financial background would get into the templates for writing a business plan on the SBA site and get stuck immediately. It almost looks to me like your site is designed to take me by the hand and walk me through the logical sequence of filling the forms out, but also to understand how they're related to each other. And see, for a lot of people in small business, I think, maybe I'm wrong here, but the process still is a mystery. It looked like to me that your website sort of gets behind the curtain of the Wizard of Oz mystery, and I can look at it and go, oh, that makes sense. Now I get what you're doing.
Exactly. And we believe if you're going to ask somebody a question, give them the correct answers to choose from. So another real weakness of templates is it's just a bunch of questions. And what we did in the funding roadmap is we built 50% of it. Every generic question has a list of drop-down menu, and all you have to do is pick the answer that applies, and it self-populates the field. So it's really much simpler to fill out, and it ensures that at least 50% of it's going to be accurate and correct. And some of the other things that it does is it gives the client an opportunity to ask questions of their counselor, their SBDC counselor, and ask them for their advice on what they believe would be a good choice, a decision for them to make in terms of advising them. So, I'm sorry, go ahead, Alan.
No, I was just going to say, one of the things that's really hard to do, and I'm really glad that you're noting this right now, is to leverage the experience and knowledge of the SBDC counselor. Because I get the feeling the old way, the example that you showed at the beginning, you go home as a small business person and spread out on the kitchen table and a variety of other tables, you put all this stuff together, you hope. But you don't get a chance. I think you could do this online with a counselor sitting next to you, helping you go through this so that the answers are really smart answers, not just, and I hate to confess this to you, but a lot of times just any answer.
Exactly. No, absolutely. And that's why the funding roadmap is much more than just a reporting system. It's actually a benchmarking tool, and it's a planning tool. I mean, we lost sight of a business plan. We lost sight of what it's really supposed to be, and we made it all about trying to accommodate a bunch of VCs and angels, investors, most of whom we'll never get an audience with. So, you know, why are we trying to write a document for them anyways? Why aren't we providing a planning tool that you can collaborate with and educate from, and then compile so that you are prepared to present to anybody? You know, the beautiful thing about the funding roadmap is that it's SBA compliant, as well as it can be used to present to friends and family, VCs or angels, but we also built the loan applications into the reporting system, and this is a unique product to us. We also built the due diligence report into the funding roadmap, which is also unique to our product, and this can be custom and branded and can be distributed from a bank's website. We built the loan application with the same drop-down menus and the same calculations, you know, that we built in the main report, again, to make sure that these were filled out correctly. And one of the things that we are promoting right now is the idea that you should fill this out and have this ready and securely stored online, so that in the event that you ever had to go to a FEMA office in a natural disaster, which of course unfortunately seems to be becoming a rampant experience for way too many people in the world.
Yeah, you know, Ruth, just for a sec, so you know, that happened in 30 states last year. 30 states.
Really?